Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and this is the channel for you if you want to know what's happening in the Villages real estate market. We take an in-depth look every week. We'll break down the differences between the different regions of the Villages, and I'll show you size differences, price differences, and how many properties are available in each of the different regions. If you are a buyer and you're looking to buy a property here in the Villages, I really suggest that you consider using our approach where we analyze properties to try to find deals in a sea of offerings. Similarly, if you're a seller, we will advise you as to the highest realistic price that you can achieve in a reasonable period of time. I'm going to show you a couple of graphs and maps throughout the show. You'll get a sense of where prices are now and what long-term trends are. But a couple of things to note first. The Villages has a very unique marketplace. We have two real estate markets here, the Villages listing service and the multiple listing service. The multiple listing service is the same listing service that you see in other parts of the country, but the Villages listing service is controlled by the Villages, and it's the only listing service on which you will find new listings. But pre-owned listings are available both on MLS and on VLS, and if you only have an MLS broker or you only have a VLS broker, you will not be seeing everything for sale here. For that reason, I suggest you find brokers who can show you properties on both markets. Without that, you will not be able to see everything offered. Also, all of this information is drawn from the multiple listing service, and so all of our analysis is done on the MLS. The other point to notice is that we produce a show every week, so please check the date to ensure you're getting the most recent information. And before we begin, two quick points. If you find this information valuable, please consider liking or subscribing to the channel. It really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. And if you have any questions or want to reach out to me, I can be reached at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com or through our website, DavidisinFlorida.com. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at what's happening this week. We start every week by taking a look at the yield on the US 10-year note. The 30-year mortgage rate most closely tracks this interest rate, and you can see that we're currently just below 4.3% on the 10-year. Over the last 3 years, the 10-year yield has moved from below 0.5% to almost 5%. It's currently just below 4.5%. I'm not going to prophesy interest rates, but I will make one point to you. Do not assume that you will be able to refi at lower rates. There is no assurance that lower rates lie ahead or that higher rates lie ahead, but I certainly wouldn't be making any assumptions that we've seen the highs in interest rates for the cycle. So let's take a look at where the Villages is before we dive into the details. We're going to be zooming in on Florida so you can get a good idea as to precisely where the Villages is located. We're about an hour north of Orlando. As we zoom in on this map, every dot that you see is an active listing currently on the MLS. The size of the dot represents the size of the property, and the color of the dot represents its price per square foot. The larger the circle, the larger the home. The darker the circle, the less per square foot. So if you're a buyer, you should be focusing on darker circles because those potentially would represent better values. This last map is particularly interesting because you're looking at exactly the same information as on the prior map, but here we're looking at price, not price per square foot. And you can easily see that by looking at price per square foot, deals are much easier to find. So let me show you how I've broken the Villages down geographically. I've divided it into the north, which is everything south of 42 and north of 466. The middle north, which is everything south of 466 and north of 466A. The middle south, which is everything south of 466A and north of 44, and the south, which is everything south of 44. And once again, all of these maps are showing you the size of the property and its price per square foot. The lighter the circle, the more expensive per square foot, and the darker, the less expensive per square foot. So let's take a look at the differences. This is the entirety of the Villages. This week there are 463 active listings. The least expensive home is 145,000, and the most expensive is just under 1,950,000. The smallest home available here in the Villages, 768 square feet. The largest, 4,216 square feet. The median price in the Villages as a whole, $373,000. And the price per square foot for all the active listings currently $262 a square foot. So how do the individual areas of the villages stack up against each other? This is the north, 217 active listings, smallest home 768 square feet, and the largest 3,910 square feet. Prices in the north range from $123 a square foot to $448 a square foot. This is the mid-north, where you can see that there are currently 135 active listings, ranging in price from $255,000 to $1,350,000. Price per square foot in the mid-north ranging from $189 a square foot to $438 a square foot. This is the Mid-South, which is south of 466A and north of 44. Only 45 active listings currently on the MLS, ranging in price from $300,000 to $1,949,000. And this is the South, where this week there are 66 active listings, ranging in price from $240,000 to $1,250,000. It is interesting to note that the South now has more active listings on MLS than the Mid-South. Now we'll take a look at some long-term charts. Here we're looking at the total number of listings active on the MLS in the villages. This week, 463, 468 the week before, and only 337 active listings the same week a year ago. Prices in the villages range from 144.9, which was originally 174.9, to a new listing for $1,949,999, which is the same price it was originally listed at. Some encouragement on the listing price per square foot for sellers. This is the median listing price for all active listings on the MLS. This week, $261.59 a foot, up from the $260.91 of a week before, and we are finally higher than the $259.26 that was in effect for all listings a year ago. This may be where we start seeing signs of stress for sellers. This is the median time on the market for all listings this week, up to 49 days from 48 days the week before, and higher than the 45-day median time on the market the same week a year ago. Now we'll look at a chart that we think is significant. This shows the number of new listings and the number of homes going pending every week, going back 2.5 years or so. Black lines are the homes going pending, and the red line are new listings. Obviously, if new listings exceed pending home sales, then the inventory will increase and there'll be increased pressure on sellers. But looking at this week, we are in balance, 42 new listings and 43 homes going pending. The previous week, there were slightly more new listings than homes going pending, but the same week a year ago, there were substantially more new listings than homes going pending. This graph is just a summary of the previous graph. This shows us the difference between new listings and homes going pending. This week, a positive one more home went pending than was listed. Last week, 4 more homes were listed than went pending. And the same week a year ago, there were 2 more homes going pending than being listed. Numbers below the zero line are negative for sellers, and numbers above the zero line are positive for sellers. So we'll dive into the pending home sales of the last week a little closer. They went pending at a median price of $258.16 a foot, up from the $247.16 of the week before, but we are still lower than the $266.91 at which homes were going pending the same week a year ago. And another sign that sellers are perhaps becoming less anxious. This is the median reduction from the original list price for the homes that went pending last week. They had a median reduction of 5.41% compared to 6.16% that was offered the previous week. And this is also improved from the almost 7% that sellers were offering for the homes that went pending a year ago. And very briefly, here's one more graph to keep an eye on. This is the median time on the market for the homes that went pending. You're looking at a 4-week moving average on the graph, but you're looking at actual numbers above. Last week, 56 days was the median time on the market for the homes that went pending, compared to 42 days the previous week, and this is almost twice as long as the homes that went pending a year ago. Now let's look at sales. These are the properties that closed last week. They numbered 39, down slightly from the 41 of the previous week, about the same as the 37 of a year ago. Homes that closed last week ranged in price from $186,999, that was originally almost $220, to a home that sold for $1,050,000, that was originally $1,150,000. And another bright point for sellers, this is the median price realized on the homes that closed last week, $260 a foot, up from the $252 a foot of the previous week, and nicely higher than the $237 a foot that was in effect for the homes that closed a year ago. We've started adding this graph. It gives us a good perspective on how this year compares to previous years. You're looking at sales per week. Blue line is 2022, green line 2023, and the red line 2024. We are about the same level as we've been the two prior years, but looking at this graph, it does seem to me that activity will be slowing through the end of the year. So let's look at all listings once again, and this time we're looking at what percentage have reduced their asking price from the original list price. 56.8% have, compared to only 56.62% who had last week, and only 54.3% who had the same week a year ago. This is another graph that looks like it might be turning down to the disadvantage of sellers. We're looking at what the median decrease is for all listings currently on the MLS. 4.46 compared to only 4.43 the previous week, and about the same as the 4.52% that we saw the same week a year ago. If you're a buyer and you're trying to find a good deal here in the villages, or at least reassure yourself that you have a fair deal, or you're a seller and you're trying to maximize your return in a reasonable period of time, please reach out to me either at DavidisinFlorida.com or DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. I'll be happy to research any area or price range that interests you, and I think you'll see that our data-driven approach will give you a lot more confidence in any number that you propose, either asking or offering. So once again, this is David is in Florida. If you have any questions about life in the villages, or you'd like research done on a property in Central Florida, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to help. Hope to hear from you. Take care.